Saturday. Christmas comes early.
Unbelievable! Welcome to this incredible scene.
Bills.
To the end zone!
Chargers.
It's a touchdown!
An exclusive NFL game.
That's fantastic!
Live in primetime.
Wow!
Only on Peacock.
With a Christmas gift to their fans. They're having some fun now.
Bills versus Chargers. Saturday, 7:30 Eastern. Exclusively on Peacock.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Pod Mavericks After Dark. This is Kirk Henderson and Josh Bowe. You're joining us on Sunday, November 19th. It's just before 9:30, and the Dallas Mavericks just lost to the Kings, 129-113. Josh, how you doing?
I'm doing okay. I think this is going to be. I'm trying to figure out the energy level for this show because it was a pretty bad loss, and I'm kind of trying to gauge the fan base's reaction. And I don't know. It was a weird game. I think there's ways you can do glass half full, glass half empty, depending on how you want to lean. But yeah, I guess let's get into it then. I'm still kind of processing it.
I mean, my first response is that the Mavericks' size issues just continue to exist. And on top of that, when you pair their lack of size without a single person who can stop someone who can dribble in a straight line, and you just run into these compounding problems. There's some unbelievable excuse making going on in social media right now, which I want to circle back to. But I think at their core, the Mavericks, unless they're playing a extremely efficient offensive game, there's about 8 teams in the league that should beat them most nights. 8 to 10 is kind of where I think. And, the Kings shot the ball really well. But the Mavericks also couldn't rebound, didn't defend. I mean, what was this? Do you have any the kind of some of the baseline stats for the games in terms of the team stuff on hand?
Yeah. The Kings were 17 of 40 from 3. They scored 58 points in the paint. They had 48. They had 14 offensive rebounds. So yeah, pick your poison. Pick your poison. I thought it was. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, and it's on top of that, it's there's this element of, and shout out to ESPN for somehow becoming so buggy that their site now auto forwards to McCaffrey. Whenever you just leave a page up often enough, it is just the most garbage website. Luka and Kyrie are going to come out and play basketball night in and night out. They're either going to have good offensive games and bad offensive games. And the way you survive a bad or less than efficient offensive game from Luka and Kyrie is by other players on the team stepping up. And the way that you buoy a good offensive game from either of those players is the same basic principle. And what we've seen 2 nights in a row, and the box score reflects this, frankly, is the past 2 games, the Dallas Mavericks, the rest of the team, outside of Tim Hardaway last night, the rest of the team has been kind of blech. I mean, Derek Jones Jr. and Josh Green essentially form one position for me, where between those guys' minutes, you're basically getting 48 minutes of the 2 of them. And between those 2 guys tonight, you had 17 points. You had 6 rebounds and 5 assists. Not terrible, but not good enough. Not for that much volume. And, on offense, they're going to, they need a little bit more to overcome the fact that these guys just can't defend anyone. And it's, Luka played a pretty subpar game. just being perfectly candid, all of his shots were short. The man can either hit free throws or hit short jumpers. There's never both in the same game. And Kyrie was 8 of 17, not inefficient by any stretch, but he had a few, times 4As in the lane where he gets broadsided and just nothing happens. And so it's like all these things were kind of a recipe for another Mavs win on the second night of a back-to-back where they needed to have more energy and they just didn't.
Yeah, your point about needing other guys to step up when your stars don't necessarily have it. I understand that, and the box score doesn't look great, but they didn't get a ton of. This might be part of it. They didn't get a ton of shots. Like Kyrie and Luka shot a lot tonight.
Oh, they're possessed. They had no second chance points. They had not. I guess they did have 11. To have 11 offensive rebounds, and I think they only had 3. At one point in the game, they only had 3 second chance points. I'm trying to see what they have right now. See if they even have that.
Yeah, Lively got a lot of offensive rebounds, but he wasn't in position for a putback. Like he always had to pass it out.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm not necessarily dismayed at anything about the offense tonight. This game to me is 100% a reflection of their defensive ineptitude.
Okay.
I understand, it's not great that your 3 starters outside of Luka and Kyrie combined for, what was it? 19 points basically. That's not great, but also, they combined to shoot 50% from the floor. So they kind of did what they could with the shots they were given. The problem for me is that seemingly no one on this roster can guard a chair or a traffic cone. It's gone beyond scheme at this point. People might want to be like, well, what can they do schematically to make things better? And it's like, if at a basic level, if the majority of your roster cannot stop a one-on-one live dribble, there's not a lot of scheme you can do to cover up that kind of weakness. And we saw it repeatedly, and we saw it it was everyone. And of course, second night of a back-to-back, they've kind of had a pretty rough travel schedule. So yeah, they were probably tired tonight, but the defense it's been looking like this almost every
This is not new.
It's
the same.
And Luka and Kyrie are the obvious ones to point to because, they're just not great defenders, although Luka has shown some spurts of being better. But the thing that's really, you don't really expect those guys to be great defenders. The offensive burden they carry, Derek Lively, Grant Williams, Derek Jones Jr., Josh Green, Dante, those are the guys that need to be guarding on this team. And I saw repeatedly guys blowing by Grant Williams, scoring through Derek Lively. He's a rookie, I understand. Blowing past Josh Green, blowing past Derek Jones Jr. And again, not even in pick and rolls, simply just guys catching the ball and just dribbling past their defender. And that just leads to, you can't do anything because, it led to early on, it was a barrage in the paint. They scored 58 points in the paint, and honestly, it felt like that this was going to be a 70-point night in the points in the paint night for the Kings with the way it was looking in the first half. But the thing is the Mavericks were like, okay, we got to wall off the paint, but we're still giving up these uncontested line drives to the rim. So what happens is they rotated, but now they're giving up open threes. The Kings shot 40 3-pointers. That's a lot. Me and you, Kirk, we talked to really, really smart basketball people that are smarter than us. And one of the things is 3-point percentage defense is pretty variable and involves some luck. But what's not luck is how many threes you allow. And the Mavericks allowed a lot of 3-pointers because their defense was such a sieve at the rim that they just had to rotate. It was pick your poison. If the Kings didn't shoot 17 of 40 from 3, they would have had 80 points in the paint tonight. It was simply that bad. And when your defense is that bad, you're once again asking your offense to pitch a perfect game. And they were kind of game for it for 60% of this game. Mm-hmm. And then naturally they kind of cooled off for a little bit and it was over because the defense stayed just as bad as it was from opening tip to the final buzzer. So that to me is the story of the game, is the defense. The offense doesn't really, it's not even really registering for me tonight.
Yeah. Well, I say the reason I bring up the
Yeah,
offense is because I've sort of accepted that the defense isn't going to get any better. I've been reading. I hopped in here early and was reading a lot of the commentary in our chats. And please, guys, continue having these conversations. I like reading them. I enjoy kind of hearing what you guys think. But when it comes down to, for me, is that the Mavericks have needed a better roster for years. This is the better roster. That's the thing. This is better than it was last year. Dorian couldn't defend anybody either. Like Dorian is not a point of attack defender. He just isn't. Because remember how often Damian Lillard would light him on fire and the Mavericks just repeatedly put him on. Reggie Bullock was about the best Dallas has had for a while, and they wore all the tread off his tires during the 21-22 season. Point of attack defense is not easy. It's extremely hard. And I've got a number of people that want me to address kids post game. I've not read it yet, to be quite honest. I had to finish up some things. I tend to try not to pay attention to post game. I'll just because it fires me up, and it's all BS anyways. You know, I think what I'm guessing is that kid probably gave some comments which removed all responsibility from himself and said, well, what can you do? That would, you know, because that's what he does. Like it's the Jason Kidd. Well, it's like you know, who's coaching here? I don't know. It's very, maybe I'm wrong. We'll see.
I mean, one quote I see from, I haven't seen a lot of the quotes, but it's been less that and more that he's just kind of frustrated with the defense, which he kind of expressed last season too. The only one I've seen so far is from Tim McMahon posting. Kid said, right now our best defense is our offense. If we're not scoring 130, it's hard to win.
Right.
Which he's right.
He's right. And the question kind of becomes, and our staffer Matthew Phillips posed this right before Josh and I hopped on, where he said, you know, what is the guiding defensive principle of the Mavericks? When they had Kristaps Porzingis, they played a lot of drop coverage because Kristaps could not guard at the perimeter, but was also 7'2". So you get your big hands in the air. You assume, you know, because again, KP's actually back to that form now that his knee's finally better and he's not having to. He's basically a fourth on the totem pole on offense, so he's able to really focus. I don't know what their defensive principles really are, because they are so bad at basic. It's been this way since 2016. Like, this isn't new. That's why I don't really know how to talk about it sometimes, because it's one of these things where it's like everybody gets beat first off the dribble. It's hard to play perimeter defense in the NBA because you cannot hand check, you cannot body bump, and a lot of these guys get just attacked off their angles over and over and over again. It was really, so it's like I don't feel like I'm a guy who loves to beat a dead horse, and I don't really know how to harp on it in a way that would feel constructive, because a lot of what they're doing is funneling stuff to Lively, and Lively's been about as like way better than I possibly could have ever expected as a rookie. And so all that feels fine. And then, you know, with Maxi Kleber hurt, it's he plays a bit of an outsized role considering how not good he is for what the Mavericks need, but he's not playing. So you go to Dwight Powell or you go to Rashawn Holmes, and neither one of those guys are particularly good.
Yeah, there's I'm getting like, people were really mad about Dwight Powell in this game, and I get it. He had some really bad defensive possessions.
He also had some really bad offensive possessions, like that he was getting the slip at the
he had 2 turnovers.
And it's just like, Bub, what are you doing?
But also, like, I'm arguing with people right now on Twitter about this. He played 13 minutes.
Right. 13 minutes isn't what lost them the game.
No, like, and Powell's never been a great defender. Like, if you're looking to, like, if you want to assign blame, it's a team issue. Like, the defense is seriously just like, everyone on the team holds some responsibility for how bad the defense is. But like Grant Williams, Derek Jones Jr., Josh Green, those guys are supposed to be good defenders. And when those guys are getting burnt off the dribble, I don't know what you can do, because you already aren't going to get incredible defense possession to possession from Kyrie to Luka, because those guys have to prop up your entire offense. Derek Lively's a rookie. Tim Hardaway Jr. is your microwave scorer off the bench. Like, if the players you're paying to be defenders aren't defending, I don't know why people are getting so mad at the players that they aren't paying to be good defenders. like it just seems a little backwards to me. And again, he's averaging like the second lowest minutes since 2016, pal. So like the way he's become like the mascot for everything that's wrong with the team. And look, I get it. Like his defensive lowlights are like when it's bad, it's really bad. Like Sabonis is like scoring through him like tissue paper. I get it. But also he played 13 minutes. There were 30 or whatever so minutes that were also played in this game that were also played with really bad defense. So that part's been bugging me a little bit, but I also know I'm more of a Dwight Powell defender.
But it's like if you're arguing about the backup center, then you've lost the thread because everybody like that's kind of what it comes down to. Like I don't even feel like deigning it with much of a conversation because it's an excuse in the sense of everyone is frustrated at 2 straight losses to better teams. And normally I'm right there on the front line, sort of kicking and screaming, but I don't know. I mean, where I am currently frustrated, and actually, you know what? I'll explain where I'm currently frustrated here in just a second. So, guys, it's 15 minutes in the show. If you could do me a favor and like the stream, if you could consider subscribing to our show, we are slowly but surely rolling along, picking up steam. If you could also, when the show's over, leave a comment on the actual video. I really like seeing those the next day, particularly from people who can't catch these live. But something about comments actually boosts visibility, so that would be really helpful to Josh and I. For those of you who are listening on the audio stream, if you could go leave us a review, I would really appreciate that. 5 stars, 1 star even, but a review would be delightful. And as always, if you are interested in contacting us, we do have the email podmaverickpodcast@gmail.com. If you have any questions, we'll have a slower week this week. So maybe, I don't know, maybe Josh and I will hop on in a couple of days. Probably not, but maybe we'll hop on in a couple of days. And after the mood has settled and talk a little Mavericks basketball, you never know.
We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. One of the things I love about Indeed is it makes hiring all in one place so easy and streamlined so I can spend more time on the rest of my business. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences. So the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Okay, so the where I am currently frustrated is like the NBA is 82 games long. You get the schedule X number of days in advance. You know what's happening and who you're playing when. I hate the excuse making from the schedule from people online. You play who's in front of you. Frankly, the Mavericks have had a baby shit soft schedule. And so that they've played more road games, that they played a lot on the road and they come back and then they leave again. Boo fucking who? There are 29 other teams that also play on the road and at home. What the fuck are we doing? That is such nonsense.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter who put that out into the universe. It's just that's loser talk. Shut up.
Now you're fired up. I like to see it. Yeah, I don't know. Like it's annoying. I just don't. Anytime you talk about stuff that's not on the court, I just don't want to. Like, I'm not trying to say it's not a factor. It's just I don't want to talk about it because, that's not. I don't know. It's not fun.
Well, it's part of it.
We can just hit record and say, "Hey, it was a schedule loss. talk to y'all.
I hate that.
There's nothing to talk about then if that's what we want to.
I mean, what I think is really cool is we played the Mavericks played 14 games now.
Uh-huh.
Luka's played all 14.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're telling me that I've gotten to watch Luka all 14 games so far this season, got to see Kyrie 11 times, I think. And if you would have told me at the start of the year that the Mavericks would get these guys this much to start the year, I would be ecstatic. And then guess what? They're 9-5, which is awesome. So, talking about schedule losses and this, that, and the other, a real schedule loss comes when you rest your star player because of the quants tell you it's important that these guys get rest. Like instead, what we, and you and I have disagreements on this, but I'm really delighted to see the team playing basketball that they have. And I think that there's a lot of rest built into elements of the schedule. Like look at this week. The Mavericks are off Monday, Tuesday. They play Wednesday night in Los Angeles. Then they're off, I'm pretty sure, Thursday, Friday, and don't play again until Saturday. That's a pretty good chunk of rest. Heading into the Bucks game, the Mavericks had 2 days off. So like the whole notion that they're tired is something that on the one hand I sympathize with because those late night travel things can really screw with you. On the other hand, everyone else deals with this too. That's all.
The Bucks didn't look super tired last night in the fourth quarter, and they were on the second night of a back-to-back.
Mm-hmm.
So like every team goes through this parts of the schedule too. Like it's not like the Mavericks are unique. Like every single team has a stretch where it's like, oh, this sucks. And you just kind of have to do what you can. So yeah. I'm not trying to argue this wasn't a schedule loss or anything like that, or that they weren't tired, but it's just, again, it's just not, I don't know, it's not fun to talk about.
I mean, this is why
it's not the game.
This is why you pull through last night. So a night so you don't lose 2 in a row in painful fashion. And instead the Mavericks went cold.
It makes blowing that fourth quarter. This game makes that fourth quarter hurt way more, for sure.
Yeah, I mean it's this team's capable of scoring 125 points a game. I like this is I firmly disagree with our commenter. Adrian Solomon says the offensive scheme or lack thereof is more responsible for Luka and Kyrie looking gassed. Like what? Like they have scored 100. They've scored over 100 points. This might be the lowest scoring game of the year for the Mavericks. They scored 113.
What are they supposed to be doing otherwise?
Right, they're their best 2 players. Like I don't like it when they go ISO heavy sometimes, but they've been running so many different actions. Like
Luka and
shots
Kyrie
weren't falling.
Yeah, I know. And Luka and Kyrie, like it or not, they're good at ISO. They're going to do what they're good at. Like
right,
Right. What's funny is the Kings actually. I think this probably goes into a little bit of the shooting. They were 14 of 28 on above the break threes, so 50%, which is really that's a lot.
Yeah.
And they were 3 of 12 on the corners. So this could have been a much uglier game than it was if they hit their corner threes at a normal rate. So, but again, they were dominant in the paint, 18 of 25, 72% at the rim.
So you're telling me most of the threes they hit were above the break?
Yes, 14 of 28 were above the break.
God, so the Darren Fox ones were really brutal. The Malik Monk ones, there were. I mean that man is just such a beautiful shooter,
and that's why. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, I kind of cut you off.
No, it's good.
Yeah, I was just saying, that's why I think I said something earlier in the night on Twitter that was like, the Mavericks are kind of getting snake biting from hot shooting. Everyone was like, "What are you talking about? Hot shooting? The defense stinks." And I was like, "I get it, but you can give up open threes and the team can the Kings could have had a bad shooting night and that wouldn't they could have missed some of those looks that they were taking on those above the break threes. They weren't all just catch and shoot wide open. Like you said, Monk hit a couple off the dribble. Fox hit a couple off the dribble as well. The problem is what opens you up to that is when you're giving up a layup line to the paint, then you're more susceptible to, I think, a hot shooting night kind of really drowning you because you've already given up so much by giving up the rim, basically. So yeah, it just makes it more. It's like they're defensively. It's like they're playing with one arm tied behind their back. It feels like.
Yeah, and I don't really see any actual solutions.
Maxey needs to get back healthy, and he probably needs a time machine to 2020. But they really need him just for minutes. And I know he hasn't looked great this season, but that's really, I mean, barring, a trade, that's probably the best thing that they could do until, Omax Prosper is ready. But I think it's pretty clear that the coaching staff doesn't think he's ready yet, which is fine. He's a rookie. I will say, I love you, Mavs fans, but Rashawn Holmes is not going to turn what is right now the 25th worst defense in the NBA into something that's passable. So I understand the idea of wanting to try something different when it's not working. And I'm sure that they will try it eventually. It's a long season. They've only played 14 games. But again, you talked about it before. Like, if we're talking about the backup center saving the defense, then there's a lot of problems.
Right. So one guy, T-Bone in the chat, says Maxey is washed. And I don't disagree, but a washed Maxey might be a better option at this point than some of the other things they have going. Yeah. Otherwise, I really don't know. The chat has repeatedly thrown out how you cannot play a mix of Kyrie, Luka, Tim Hardaway Jr., Jaden Hardy. Like, you can't have like three of those guys on the court at any one point in time.
That's the roster, though.
That's the roster. So it's like, I don't disagree that you shouldn't do that if you want to be good on defense, but that's kind of the option. That's kind of what they have to do.
Right. I mean, they already start two non-shooters really in Jones and Lively. They mix in Green a little bit. Like,
yeah,
Green played 26 minutes. Like, it's not like they're not playing the good defenders the most, a lot of minutes. Like, Jones only played 19, but again, he was not good tonight. So,
well, I'm really getting a kick out of this in the chat because it's just like, well, it's the roster, and it's, again, Josh and I don't disagree, but this was what the Mavericks get for having essentially the same roster from, March of 2019 until the trade for Kyrie Irving. Like, they didn't drafting didn't work out particularly well. Free agency signings weren't particularly good. It left the roster in a spot of sort of having to start over. And once again, we see that Luka and then Kyrie, of course, as well, elevate players that aren't as good as they could, as they really are. Grant Williams had such a hot start to the season. And there's not, I keep seeing notes, there's going to be trades that are coming. No, there won't. There won't. Who are they trading? What are they trading? They don't have anything to trade. It's okay. Again, we're 9-5.
Yeah. I think that's the thing you have to come back to, is that they're 9-5.
If they finish the season 5 games over 500, that is what?
That's
math.
How many wins is that?
Bad math.
Was that like 46 wins? Somewhere around there, 45?
I don't even know. What is it? This is this is how good we are. No, it's like 43 and
43.
I don't know. Whatever it is. This is how good Josh and I are at this.
I'm not even trying. I'm sorry. I can't do math.
The point is, if you're 5 games over 500 at the end of the year, that's 4 games. That's 9 games up from where they would be last year, which is a pretty ridiculous game improvement.
Right.
9 games is a lot in a regular in a win total jump. Double-digit jumps do not happen. Like, it's very rare. It's not to say that couldn't happen, but not bad. Yeah, it can't be 5 games over 500. You're right, Jared. It's a math. I was sitting there thinking that in my head, so it's fine.
And then before we go, so they're I'm looking at cleaning the glass, and if you want to end on a positive note, their net rating on cleaning the glass and it's updated with this game is still +3 per 100 possessions, which is pretty good, all things considered. Offense is 2, defense is 25th. And you see the 25th and you're like, oh boy. But let's remember last season, I'm going to pull up last season's numbers. The best offense in the NBA last season was the Kings, and they had the 25th best defense last season, and they won 48 games. And they had a net rating of 2.4 per 100 possessions. So the Mavericks can have a successful season with this doo-doo defense if their offense continues to be one of the best in the league, which, there might be some signs that they're, some things might cool down. Some of their shooting marks might go down. But I really do believe that this offense is that good. They were that good last year. They just got bit by, some historically bad paint defense and some bad clutch games. But I think the formula for this team until there's more roster changes is I think they're going to beat up on the bad teams and they're probably going to lose most of their games against the good teams. But if you do that, you're going to make the playoffs.
I think that's true.
There's more bad teams than good teams.
And the real problem the Mavericks had the last several years is they couldn't beat the bad teams because Luka wouldn't show up. Yeah. He would only show up for the good teams. Yeah, that's a great comment. Maths in this chat is worrying. Thank you, 17. That's a really funny comment. Regarian says, why is Kirk saying we have nothing to trade? That is objectively untrue. Well, think about it like this. I'm hearing in the chat that all these different players on our team suck. But then you're saying that we need to trade those players.
Yeah, the Josh Green trade stock is taking a bit of a hit, I think, so far this season. They do have a first rounder I think they can trade.
I don't want them to use that, though. To me, that's their that's their break glass in case of emergency trade, and I'm not there yet mentally.
Unless something presents itself. But
sure.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see.
The West, somebody said earlier that the West is a gauntlet. I kind of feel like it's a slap fight where you I'm just outside of Denver, even this Kings team where it's, Sabonis got played out of the playoffs last year, guys. So it's like, you get the right matchup. Like Luka's the player in the West outside of Jokic that no team wants to play for seven games. So get me to the playoffs and then we can talk. And I really feel like this is what did we say yesterday? I think we said this yesterday that we are confident that this is a playoff team. And I think I firmly said not a play-in team, a playoff team.
So top six.
I still believe that.
Yeah, I think these last two games haven't really changed that. I think the only thing, there might be some disappointment from people that thought that they were going to be like a top 3 seed or a top 2 seed with how they started out the gate. And I think me and you were never there. We always were like, they're probably like, their ceiling is maybe the 4th seed and they might end around 5 or 6, and they're still on that pace even after these games. So, we'll see. There's still, it's still 14 games. Like we haven't even hit the 20 game mark. So there's a lot left to learn about this team, I think.
Well, we'll see what these guys do. I'm interested. The problem, and a lot of us get really frustrated with Jason Kidd. I get frustrated with Jason Kidd in game. I don't really get frustrated with Jason Kidd out of game because there's not a lot of practice. There's not a lot of time to install stuff. It's oftentimes on NBA players themselves to, go back and look at film and figure out where things are going wrong. And, maybe the Mavericks will do that this week. Maybe they'll figure something out. Maybe they'll find some sense of connectivity. I mean, the argument for finding that sense of connectivity in defense can be found in the what was it? The spring of 22, where all of a sudden they found a 7.5 man rotation and just rode it to the Western Conference Finals. They had like the 8th best defense for about 6 weeks, and that was enough to pull them. And maybe that'll be what these Mavericks do, Yeah,
that might be it.
It's you don't have to be dominant always. Offense is so much more important with the way the rules are set this game.
Yep.
It's fine.
That's why they're not. Yeah, they've got. That's why they're 9-5 with the doo-doo defense, because their offense just matters so much more. So yeah, you're absolutely right.
Top 5 comment from Adrian in the chat. Galaxy Brain, if there's no system to install, the lack of practice time doesn't matter. I think they have a system. It's just entirely based upon help and recover. And, you see it by the time a third rotation happens, or meaning defensive rotation happens, like Josh Green's running from 15 feet away. He gets there and he gets burned off the dribble. And at that point, it's not his fault. Because if he closes out slower, he's giving up a 3-point shot. If he closes, it's like you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. It's that first instance of dribble penetration, which the Mavericks get screwed on over and over and over again because they just can't do it.
Yeah. And they're still, they're okay at giving up. They're giving up way too many. I think they're giving up too many shots at the rim, but they're still 11th in rim rate for opposing rim rate. They give up a lot of threes, but they don't give up a ton of corner. They're giving up I think the shots that they're giving up are, I don't know. It's not as bad as some of the score looks. So like that maybe leads to like their identity or scheme wise. Again, the problem is that doesn't matter if you just can't go stop someone one-on-one from going to the
right. Anyway, and I'm kind of all over the place tonight. It's not like I'm exactly a Jason Kidd defender, but I have a hard time laying this at him at this point because there are instances like last year and the year prior where they're like where coaching would matter in a key decision point and he just wouldn't do anything. And now it's just like the past 2 losses, I wish he would have called a timeout a little bit earlier last night, but he was trying to give Kyrie a blow. That's a mistake, but it's an understandable one. Tonight, they just got beat and they couldn't find solutions. So what do? You go back to the drawing board and you try again.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I wasn't going to hold the live show, but it's just 10 o'clock, so I think I'm going to do another one of those. So if those of you who are new, you want to back out of this when we close up here and YouTube and go over to the Mavs Therapy. We can talk for, half an hour, and then we'll close out and rejoin on the night before Thanksgiving, Wednesday night. So you got anything else before we go?
No, I think that's it.
All right, guys. Kirk Henderson, Josh Bowe, thanks so much for hanging out with us here at Pod Maverick After Dark. I appreciate everyone's support, and we will talk to you guys soon. Go Mavs.